Have you ever looked at modern relationships and wondered, why do they feel so shallow, so temporary, so empty, even when two people look perfect together on the outside? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden reasons behind why modern love feels more like a performance than a deep connection. And once you see these patterns, you'll never look at love the same way again. Reason 1: surface level connections replace depth. In today's world, relationships often begin with instant attraction and quick judgments. The first impression is built on looks, lifestyle, or status updates rather than on real conversations or shared experiences. People swipe right based on a photo, decide compatibility based on a caption, and sometimes even enter relationships without truly knowing the person in front of them. The foundation is shallow because it is built on surface level information, not the kind of emotional depth that keeps love alive. When two people connect only on appearances, they never truly discover each other's inner world. And without that discovery, the relationship feels more like a performance than a partnership. The problem is that surface level connections give the illusion of intimacy without delivering the substance of it. A few flattering texts, constant emojis, or an exciting night out together can create a rush of emotions that feels like love. But what happens when the novelty fades, when the looks don't excite as much, or when silence fills the space? Those who have only connected on shallow grounds suddenly realize they don't have much to talk about or share beyond the initial attraction. They mistake chemistry for compatibility, and once the spark wears off, the emptiness underneath becomes impossible to ignore. Social media and dating apps have only made this problem more severe. In a culture obsessed with aesthetics, people are more focused on presenting the perfect image than revealing who they really are. Instead of sharing insecurities, fears, and dreams, many hide behind curated versions of themselves, showing only what they believe others will find attractive. This leads to connections where both partners are relating to masks rather than to real individuals. When the relationship exists between two performances, there is no depth to sustain it when life's challenges inevitably appear. What many people overlook is that true intimacy is not built on appearance but on vulnerability. Depth comes from late-night conversations where you strip away the small talk and reveal your doubts, your history, your wounds, and your vision for life. It comes from being able to sit in silence without feeling the need to entertain or impress. Depth is found in the comfort of knowing someone sees the parts of you that you usually hide and chooses to stay anyway. But in modern love, most people are too afraid of this level of exposure. They fear rejection, they fear judgment, so they keep things on the surface where it feels safe. Yet the very safety of the surface becomes the prison that prevents real connection. When surface-level attraction drives relationships, partners often confuse excitement with love. They assume that the butterflies at the beginning mean a bond has been formed, when in reality it is only chemistry doing its work. Real love is much quieter, more consistent, and less dramatic. It does not always feel like a rush, but it provides something deeper, a sense of security, of belonging, of being truly known. But because many chase the thrill of surface connections, they abandon relationships the moment the high fades, always searching for the next spark, the next person, the next temporary fix. This cycle leaves people feeling more empty with every attempt because they are chasing stimulation rather than building depth. A surface-level relationship can never satisfy the deeper needs of the human heart. People crave to be seen beyond their exterior, to be loved not for how they look in a filtered photo, but for who they are in their rawest form. They want to be understood without words, valued not for what they provide, but for simply existing as themselves. When relationships lack that depth, the emptiness shows up in subtle ways, through unspoken disconnection, through the constant need for distraction, through the feeling of loneliness even while being in a relationship. And no matter how good the surface looks to outsiders, the absence of depth always reveals itself inside the relationship. Reason 2, confusing attention with love. One of the biggest traps in modern relationships is mistaking attention for love. In a world where notifications, likes, and messages dominate our sense of worth, many have begun to believe that constant attention means genuine care. When someone checks in often, replies quickly, or floods us with compliments, it can feel like love. But attention is not the same as affection, and it certainly isn't the same as devotion. Attention can be temporary, transactional, or motivated by desire rather than genuine connection. Love, on the other hand, is patient, steady, and rooted in commitment. The confusion between the two is why so many relationships today begin with excitement and validation, only to collapse when the attention fades. The danger lies in how addictive attention can feel. When a person constantly showers you with texts, likes, or praise, it activates a sense of importance and belonging. You feel noticed, you feel wanted, and for a moment that feels enough. But attention is fleeting. It requires constant feeding because the moment it slows down, insecurity creeps in. If a partner who once messaged you 10 times a day suddenly slows down to 2, it begins to feel like rejection. In truth, love does not need to be measured by the quantity of attention, but by the quality of presence. A person may not text you all day, but if they show up when you need them, support you in silence, and stand by you consistently, that is love. Yet many people today overlook this kind of depth because they are chasing the high of attention. Social media has amplified this confusion more than ever before. Online, people display affection publicly through posts and comments, turning private feelings into performances. A picture with a caption may look like devotion, but sometimes it is just attention-seeking dressed as romance. Partners begin to measure their worth by how often they are shown off online rather than by the unseen loyalty and effort that happens behind closed doors. This obsession with external validation creates relationships that look strong to outsiders but feel hollow to the people inside them. Love is not about how loudly someone announces you to the world, but about how quietly they protect you, support you, and remain committed even when nobody is watching. Another reason people confuse attention with love is because attention fills temporary voids. When someone feels lonely, bored, or insecure, even a small amount of attention can feel like salvation. A late-night message or a playful compliment can give the illusion of intimacy, but it is often only meeting an immediate need, not building a lasting bond. Love is not about filling empty spaces for a moment. It is about building a foundation that can hold both people steady. Yet because many do not know the difference, they continue to mistake temporary relief for lasting connection. This confusion often leads to heartbreak because when attention shifts, so does the illusion of love. A partner may lose interest, become distracted, or give their attention to someone else, and suddenly the entire relationship feels like it is crumbling. In truth, what is crumbling is not love, but the dependence on attention. When relationships are built on attention, they are fragile by nature. But when they are built on genuine love, they withstand the test of silence, distance, and time. Love remains even when attention is not always visible, because it exists in actions, choices, and sacrifices, not just in words or gestures. Real love requires presence, not performance. It is not about being seen all the time, but about being valued all the time. It does not demand constant reassurance through messages or gestures, but instead provides a steady foundation of trust and care. The more people learn to recognize the difference between attention and love, the less likely they are to fall for the emptiness of validation, and the more capable they become of building relationships that endure beyond the noise of the modern world. Reason 3, fear of vulnerability. One of the silent killers of modern relationships is the deep fear of vulnerability. Vulnerability means exposing the parts of yourself that you usually keep hidden, the fears you try to mask, the insecurities you cover, and the truths you avoid saying out loud. It is the raw honesty of showing your wounds, your doubts, and your imperfections without knowing how the other person will react. This openness is what creates depth, trust, and emotional intimacy. Yet in today's culture, many people shy away from it. They would rather present a polished version of themselves, appearing strong, confident, and unaffected, than risk being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. As a result, relationships stay on the surface, lacking the very depth that makes love feel real and lasting. The fear of vulnerability comes from a deep human instinct to protect ourselves from pain. Many people carry scars from past experiences where opening up led to betrayal, criticism, or abandonment. Once someone has been hurt in that way, they learn to build walls, to hide their emotions, to only show what feels safe. They may still enter relationships, but they never fully let the other person in. They may share laughter, share experiences, even share their bodies, but they never truly share their hearts. The walls remain intact, and while those walls may keep out rejection, they also keep out intimacy. You cannot experience true connection while remaining guarded, because real love requires the courage to be seen completely. Modern culture makes vulnerability even harder. In a society where people compete to appear flawless, weakness is often mistaken for failure. Social media has created an environment where everyone showcases their best moments, leaving little room for raw honesty. The pressure to appear perfect makes people believe that if they reveal their struggles, their partner might think less of them, or worse, leave them. This mindset creates relationships that look strong from the outside but feel empty on the inside. Partners end up performing for each other rather than connecting with each other, and the relationship becomes more about maintaining an image than building a bond. Fear of vulnerability also shows up in the way people communicate. Instead of expressing their true feelings, many resort to silence, sarcasm, or indirect hints. They avoid difficult conversations, suppress emotions, and pretend everything is fine when it is not. By doing so, they believe they are protecting themselves from conflict or disappointment. But what they are really doing is starving the relationship of truth. Love cannot grow in a space where truth is hidden. When someone is unable to be vulnerable, their partner never really knows them. And without that knowledge, true intimacy is impossible. What results is a relationship where both people feel lonely even while being together because their real selves remain unseen. The tragedy is that vulnerability, while terrifying, is the very thing that creates closeness. It is in those moments of raw honesty that two people truly bond. When you reveal your fears and your partner accepts you, the bond deepens. When you admit your insecurities and your partner reassures you, trust strengthens. When you express your pain and your partner stands with you, love grows roots that no surface connection can imitate. But because so many are afraid of this, they never give love the chance to reach its full depth. They settle for half connections, for relationships built on attraction, convenience, or distraction, and then wonder why something always feels missing. To love without vulnerability is to love with restraint. It is to hold back the very parts of yourself that could bring you the greatest closeness. It is safer, yes, but it is also emptier. Love that is safe from rejection is also safe from intimacy, and without intimacy, love becomes nothing more than companionship. The fear of vulnerability robs people of the joy of being truly known and truly accepted, leaving relationships hollow despite appearances of success. Reason 4, transactional mindset. One of the most damaging patterns in modern love is the transactional mindset. This is the belief that relationships operate like a trade, where each person gives something only to get something in return. Instead of love being rooted in generosity, care, and mutual growth, it becomes a calculation of effort versus reward. People begin to view their partners not as companions to share life with, but as sources of benefits, status, validation, financial support, intimacy, or convenience. The moment those benefits stop flowing in the expected way, resentment grows, and the relationship begins to feel like a business deal rather than a bond. This mindset strips relationships of the unconditional essence that makes them fulfilling, leaving behind a sense of hollowness even when both partners are technically getting something. The transactional mindset is often shaped by the way society frames relationships today. Everywhere you look, there are conversations about what men should bring to the table or what women should provide in return. These expectations create a competitive and conditional atmosphere where people evaluate their partners as though they are products to be consumed rather than human beings to be cherished. While standards and expectations are natural in love, the problem arises when they dominate the connection. Instead of asking, "How can we grow together?" people ask, "What am I getting out of this right now?" That attitude makes relationships fragile because love can never survive when it is reduced to a constant scorecard of who is giving more and who is giving less. This mindset also encourages people to hold back their best selves unless they feel the exchange is worth it. Someone might withhold affection because they feel their partner has not earned it. Another might avoid investing emotionally until they are sure of what they will get in return. This creates a cycle of distrust where both partners are waiting for the other to prove themselves instead of leading with love. But love is not about holding back. It is about offering yourself fully, knowing that true connection is built through giving, not through cautious negotiation. When both people operate from a transactional space, no one ever feels truly safe because the relationship depends not on love, but on the balance of trade. The tragedy of this mindset is that it denies the deepest human need, the need to be loved for who we are, not for what we provide. When love is conditional, it places people under constant pressure to perform. They feel that if they stop giving in the expected way, whether that's financial support, emotional care, or physical attraction, the relationship will collapse. This pressure creates anxiety and insecurity as partners begin to question whether they are valued as individuals or simply for their usefulness. Over time, this erodes trust and intimacy because the relationship feels more like a test than a safe space to be real. At the heart of love lies the principle of selfless giving, yet the transactional mindset makes giving feel like a risk. People fear that if they give too much without calculating, they will be taken advantage of. This fear is understandable, especially in a world where exploitation does happen, but guarding yourself too tightly prevents genuine love from ever forming. Real connection requires both people to give freely, not because they are keeping score, but because they want to see the other person thrive. The paradox is that when love is offered without conditions, it often creates a natural balance where both partners give and receive abundantly without even thinking about it. The transactional mindset promises security but delivers emptiness. It convinces people that they are protecting themselves by measuring what they give and receive, but what they are really doing is closing the door to intimacy. Relationships built on transactions may last for a while, but they rarely feel fulfilling. The joy of love does not come from constant negotiation. It comes from surrendering the need to control the balance and choosing instead to give from the heart. Reason 5, addiction to novelty. One of the most overlooked reasons modern love feels so empty is the addiction to novelty. Human beings are wired to enjoy excitement, curiosity, and the rush of something new. But in today's culture, this natural desire has been amplified to unhealthy levels. Dating apps, social media, and the constant flood of choices create an environment where people are always chasing the next thrill. Instead of slowing down to invest in one connection, many jump from person to person, conversation to conversation, hoping to keep that high alive. What begins as innocent excitement slowly turns into a habit where stability feels boring and depth feels like a trap. This addiction to novelty prevents people from experiencing the kind of love that only grows with time, patience, and consistency. The beginning of a relationship is often intoxicating. There are butterflies, late night conversations, and the thrill of discovering someone new. Everything feels exciting because both people are showing their best selves, and the unknown creates a sense of mystery. But what many forget is that this stage is temporary. Over time, the newness fades, routines settle in, and real life begins to show up. For those addicted to novelty, this shift feels like a loss. They confuse the natural transition into deeper intimacy with the end of attraction. Instead of embracing the stability, they chase the initial spark again, believing that true love should always feel like the beginning. This mindset traps them in a cycle of endless beginnings but never lasting bonds. The problem is that novelty creates a dopamine rush, and like any high, it becomes addictive. Each swipe on a dating app brings the possibility of someone more exciting, more attractive, more interesting than the last. Each new message or flirtation feels like a fresh source of validation. People become hooked on the thrill of being desired and the illusion of endless options. But what they fail to see is that constantly chasing novelty prevents them from experiencing the deeper rewards of commitment. They trade long-term fulfillment for short-term stimulation, and the result is emptiness disguised as excitement. In relationships, addiction to novelty often leads to dissatisfaction. A partner may seem wonderful in the beginning, but as soon as flaws appear or the excitement cools down, doubts arise. Instead of working through challenges or building resilience, those addicted to novelty start looking elsewhere, convinced they will find someone better. They forget that every person has flaws, every relationship has struggles, and love requires effort beyond the first few weeks. By constantly seeking novelty, they never allow themselves to grow within a relationship. And without growth, love remains shallow and unsatisfying. This addiction is also reinforced by modern culture's glorification of excitement. Movies, music, and social media all emphasize the intensity of passion and the thrill of falling in love, but rarely show the beauty of staying in love. Stability is portrayed as dull, while chaos is romanticized as passion. This narrative convinces people that if their relationship does not feel electrifying every moment, it must not be real. They overlook the fact that true intimacy is not always thrilling, but deeply comforting, not always fiery, but steady and secure. Love matures over time, but the addiction to novelty blinds people from recognizing its value. At its core, the addiction to novelty reveals a fear of stillness. Many people are afraid of slowing down long enough to truly know another person or to be known themselves. They fear routine, they fear predictability, and they fear the vulnerability that comes with long-term closeness. Novelty becomes a distraction, a way to avoid facing the deeper layers of love that require patience and commitment. Yet the very depth they are avoiding is the only thing that can bring lasting fulfillment. Until people break free from the cycle of chasing the new, they will continue to find themselves surrounded by options, but starved of true connection. Reason 6. Lack of shared purpose. One of the most subtle yet powerful reasons modern love feels empty is the absence of a shared purpose. Relationships today are often built around attraction, lifestyle, or convenience, but they rarely center on a deeper vision of building something meaningful together. In the past, couples often had clear roles or common missions: raising a family, supporting each other through survival, building a home, or pursuing collective dreams. While the world has changed, the need for a unifying purpose has not. When two people come together without a bigger why, the relationship easily drifts, no matter how much passion or chemistry is present. Without shared direction, love becomes fragile because attraction alone is not strong enough to hold two people together when life gets hard. A shared purpose gives love depth because it ties the relationship to something greater than individual desires. When couples know they are building toward the same vision, every struggle feels meaningful and every sacrifice feels worth it. Without this, partners may still enjoy each other's company, but over time, the bond feels shallow because there is no deeper reason for staying together beyond comfort or attraction. People begin to wonder what the relationship is truly about, and that uncertainty often leads to restlessness. A relationship without purpose may survive for a while on excitement, but it cannot provide the long-term fulfillment that comes from moving in harmony toward the same goals. Modern relationships often fall into the trap of self-centeredness. Each partner comes in with their own personal ambitions, dreams, and pursuits, but rarely do they ask how those paths can be aligned. Instead of thinking, what can we create together? The mindset becomes, what can you add to my life? This individualistic approach works in the short term, but over time, it breeds disconnection. When one partner feels they are moving in a different direction than the other, the relationship starts to feel like dead weight rather than a source of strength. Shared purpose is what keeps people walking side by side rather than drifting apart into separate lives. This lack of shared purpose also makes relationships more vulnerable to distractions. When two people are not united by a common vision, it becomes easier for them to lose focus on each other. They may start prioritizing careers, social circles, or even strangers on the internet over their relationship because there is no deeper mission anchoring them together. A shared purpose acts like a compass, guiding couples back to each other when external pressures try to pull them apart. Without it, every challenge feels like a threat rather than an opportunity to grow stronger together. Another overlooked aspect is that shared purpose does not always have to mean grand achievements. It does not have to be about building businesses or chasing extraordinary goals. Sometimes it is simply about creating a home filled with love, raising children with intention, or supporting each other's growth in small but powerful ways. What matters is that both people agree on what they are building together and commit to it fully. When that clarity is missing, even simple disagreements can feel like major conflicts because there is no higher vision to remind them why they are together in the first place. The truth is, love without shared purpose feels empty because it lacks direction. Two people may deeply care for each other, but if their lives are not moving toward the same horizon, the bond begins to weaken. Passion, attraction, and chemistry may spark the beginning of love, but shared purpose is what sustains it. Without it, relationships risk becoming a collection of moments rather than a meaningful journey. The couples who last are not the ones who never face struggles, but the ones who know exactly why they are facing them together. So, if modern love feels empty, it's not because love itself has lost its power. It's because we've forgotten the very foundations that make it meaningful: depth, vulnerability, shared purpose, and the willingness to give without keeping score. Love was never meant to be a performance, a transaction, or a constant chase for novelty. It was meant to be a place where two people choose each other fully and build something that lasts beyond the surface. And the truth is, when you bring back intention, when you choose to love with depth, when you stop confusing attention for affection and instead commit to building real intimacy, love stops feeling empty and starts feeling alive again.